morning to all. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Then today our topic is short run equilibrium. Short run equilibrium. Short run equilibrium, it is related to the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. The theory, these are given by the Keynesian economist and according to the short run equilibrium, our economy are in equilibrium where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. And we also know that the aggregate demand, the components of the aggregate demand is the C plus I, and the components of aggregate supply are the C plus S. So C is the common in both, so deduct हो जाएगा. So I is equal to S. So we can say that our economy या national income equilibrium established where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other, as well as plant investment and plant saving are equal to each other. These are not the actual investment and actual saving. These are the plant investment and plant saving. So first of all, we can define it, the equilibrium, with the help of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So the question arises, he explain the economic equilibrium with the help of aggregate demand and aggregate supply, and what the changes will take place if the economy are not in equilibrium. Then first of all, we define it, the definition of this concept. It means the national income equilibrium established where, according to the Keynesian economist, the economic equilibrium established where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. And we also know that every law or theory depends on the some assumptions. So we have the some assumptions in this concept, that the assumptions are, first is, yani this concept, these equilibrium related to the short period. It is related to the short period. It means short period is that periods in which one factor is a variable and other are constant. Then second is closed economy. Closed economy. It is related to the closed economy. It means closed economy means where the components of the aggregate demand is only the C plus I. We does not include the net exports because these are included in the open economy only. And third is AS is perfectly elastic. It means after the fuller utilization of the resources, there is no possibility of increase the production process. And fourth is no change in technology. It means if the producer uses the labor intensive technology, then he cannot utilize the modern techniques. It means the producer uses only the labor intensive technology which are applied in the production process. Then these can be defined with the help of the, first of all, we define the definition of the national income equilibrium. Then after this we assume some factors are constant, then these can be defined with the help of table and diagram. We also know that the y increase at a constant rate. For example, 0, 100, 200, 300, 400 and 500. Then C is, we also know that when income is 0, then consumption can never be 0. So there is a minimum level of consumption. These are called the autonomous consumption. So suppose we assume that these are 40, 100, 140, 180, 220 and 260. It means consumption also increase at a constant rate. As well as income increases, then consumption also increases because these are positively related. And then I means investment expenditure. It means we assume in this equilibrium concept, we assume there is a autonomous investment which are done by the government sectors and which are not inspired by the income or profit. So these are constant at every level of income. So suppose these are 60 which are constant at every level of income because these are the autonomous investment. So with the help of C plus I, it is equal to aggregate demand. So C plus I 100, 160, 140 plus 60, 200, 180 plus 60, 240, 220 plus 60, 280, 260 plus 60, 320. Then it is the value of the aggregate demand which are the sum total of the C plus I. So, and aggregate supply is the sum total of C plus S. So we also calculate the value of S, saving. Saving, how we can find out the value of saving? It is the difference between the income and consumption. So Y minus C is equal to S. 0 minus 40, minus 40, 100 minus 100, 0, 200 minus 140, 60, 300 minus 180, 20, 400 minus 220, 180, then 500 minus 260 as a 240, right? So these are the value of saving. So we can find out the value of aggregate supply C plus S. C plus S, 40 minus 40, 0. 100 plus 0, 100. 140 plus 60, 200, 180 plus 120, 300, 220 plus 180, 400 and 260 plus 240 is equal to 500. So, when income is 200, then aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. So, it is the point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other, and above the equilibrium point, the aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, and below the point AD is less than AS. So it can be defined with the help of a table or diagram. So these also defined with the help of a diagram also. Yani it may be asked as a questions in terms of table. So it can also define with the help of a diagram. या तो इसमें टेबल के द्वारा इसमें डायग्राम यानी इट मीन्स इक्विलिब्रियम फाइंड आउट किया जाता है या डायग्रामेटिकल. So it can also define with the help of a diagram. And in this diagram we assume only the aggregate demand and aggregate supply without the help of table, x-axis and y-axis. So there is the aggregate demand, या we assume expenditure, on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis we apply the income or output. So the aggregate supply is upward slope on 45-degree line. These are also called the 45-degree line because aggregate supply increase at a constant rate, and aggregate demand curve starts from the y-axis because consumption and investment can never be zero. So these are the aggregate demand is equal to C plus I. So the point E, we have aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. These are called the point of equilibrium. So we can define it. The point E is the equilibrium point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply intersect to each other. So below the point A, E, AD is more than AS, and above the point A, E, AD is less than AS. Then if the economy are not in equilibrium, then two situations can be arise in our economy. First is AD is more than AS, and second is AD is less than aggregate supply. So what happens in our economy when aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply and aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply? So when aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, it means all over expenditure increased. So actual output is less than our desired output. So the producer plan to increase in their production to fulfill the demand of the consumers. So aggregate supply increased, and the aggregate supply increased till the point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. So we also reach on the equilibrium point again where AD is equal to AS. Then second is what happens when the aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. It means in this situation we can define this concept. In this situation aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. It means our actual output is more than the desired output. So the producer have unsold stock to remain him. So to clear their production, to clear their stock, the producer starts decrease in their production. तो प्रोड्यूसर प्लान बनाता है अपने प्रोडक्शन को डिक्रीज करने का, एंड द प्रोड्यूसर कंटिन्यू टू देयर decrease their production till the point where AS is equal to AD. So we reach again on the equilibrium point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. So by this process we can define the economic equilibrium with the help of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. And ये देखें OY is also the national income equilibrium level of output. If the two conditions arise in our economy where our economy are not in equilibrium, so by the process we can also reach again on the equilibrium point. It means in one situation the producer increase the production, and the other situation the producer decrease their production. So these are also the point E is also the equilibrium point where AD is equal to AS. So that's all for today. For the further classes, connect to our YouTube channel. Thanks and have a nice day.